Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name's Andrew Grosset and welcome to my channel. I say this at the beginning of every episode and I'm going to say it again now. If you have just joined this series now because you've just come across it, or you've been drawn to it because you're in the process of purchasing a property, please hit the stop button. Go back to week one. They've all been done in a particular sequence, and in order for you to get the maximum out of it, it's best that you watch it in that sequence. So stop this one now, go back to week one, watch it all the way through, and it'll all make far more sense. So just as a quick recap so you understand where we are now, for those that have been following: number one, we've got our mortgage and principal arranged, so we know how much we're borrowing. Number two, we've now got to the point where we've found the property and we've actually put offers through. We've actually put offers through on it, and also now actually got the offer accepted. We've notified our solicitors and instructed them. We've notified our mortgage broker or our lender and got the mortgage application in process, and therefore they'll be contacting your agent in order to arrange a valuation appointment. And we've also had the agents issue out the sale memorandum, which means the solicitors are now getting in contact with each other and initiating the conveyancing process. Now this is the bit we're going to focus in on now. That is the conveyancing process, and I'm not going to go through it in massive detail, but I am going to highlight a few key factors that will help you understand the timeline of things, and also how long this timeline is likely to take whilst we're in this phase. So at the point of when your estate agent issues your seller memorandum out to both side solicitors, the seller's solicitors will issue what we call draft paperwork. Now, what's involved in that draft paperwork would be dictated by what type of property it is that you're purchasing. So at the top of the chain, you've got a freeholder. Now, if you're a freeholder, you own the roof, the four walls, and the land it sits on. You own the whole thing in its entirety. You can more or less do what you want within that demise of that property. So you can take walls out without having to ask permission, etc. Because you find that essentially you own the whole thing. Coming a couple of down to, on the contrary side of it, you've also got what could be a leasehold. Now, a leasehold means that you don't own the actual building itself, but you own a space within it for a set period of time. So leases can operate anything through up to 999 years. Typically on a residential property, you're more looking at bouncing in and around 150 to 125 years year mark. You'll have a freeholder, so someone that owns the bricks and mortar. So if you want to do any structural changes to it, doesn't mean it's immediately not allowed, but you will have to ask permission to do so. So the one slightly above that is what we call a share of freehold, and the hint is in the name. You own a share of the freehold. Typically would be with a Victorian conversion property that's been split into different apartments. So each leaseholder of each apartment will own a share of the freehold of the property. That means collectively they usually form a management company. That means that they are responsible for the same responsibilities that a freeholder would. So ensuring that the building's got buildings insurance, the roof, and the structural walls, and all the bits in between. Typically, people were prepared to be a share of freeholder because whilst it does mean that you get the responsibility, or at least share of responsibility, of what a freeholder would have to deal with, you also get the benefit of being able to knock down walls, remodel kitchens, etc. without having to ask for permission, whereas if a leaseholder, you would do. So going back to your solicitor in terms of the conveyancing wheel that is now operational and spinning, at the point of when your solicitor is instructed, they will give you a highlight of fees that you will have to agree to. That will dictate how much it's going to cost you for them to act on your behalf to complete this sale. Now, typically the fees that a solicitor will charge are paid and settled when the sale completes. So you won't have to necessarily pay that, but they will usually ask you for an amount of money to hold on account, typically about the £500 mark, for the various searches that they have to do and any other things that they have to request throughout the process. Rather than coming to you and asking you individually as each thing comes up, they hold that money on account and just use those funds to apply for whatever it is that they need to apply for as the time goes through. At the point of when both solicitors have been instructed and the seller memorandum's gone out, the seller solicitor will issue a draft contract, so a set of terms that are in there, and also if it's a share of freehold or a leasehold, will also issue a lease. Now, when solicitors go back and forth with what they call inquiries, that's what they're referring to. So your solicitor, on receipt of that, will go through that contract pack line by line meticulously and making sure that it is negotiated fairly. So making sure that any hidden charges or any hidden wording is ironed out, any queries around such things are taken out. If it's a historical lease, because don't forget these leases can sit with these properties essentially from the point of when the first lease is created and then extended throughout time. Some terms in there might not actually be applicable or used anymore. Your solicitor will comb through those bits and pieces to make sure that they're fair. They'll make sure that the contract is fair as well. This conveyancing process can take some time as the questions and answers go back and forth until both solicitors are satisfied, especially considering your solicitor to make sure that they are satisfied and you are satisfied with the contents of the document that we are about to sign and agree to. There's that part to it. At the beginning of that inquiries process, once that draft contract paperwork goes out, your solicitor will also apply for local and environmental searches. Now, what that covers for us, it covers things like making sure that the land registry, the name that we're working with is in terms of the person that says that they own the property, marries up with what land registry believes is the person that owns the property. It covers things such as making sure that you have an actual water supply and a sewage and drainage supply. They'll also do environmental searches to make sure the land's not been subject to subsidence, making sure it's not got any toxic waste near it, it's not sat on top of an actual sewer, etc., etc. There's all these different things that they will that come out of a search that are absolutely things that you need to know on in terms of you purchasing a property. You know, you're going to be living here for at least the next 10 years and ultimately responsible for that building, so you want to make sure that you ascertain exactly what it is that you're signing up to be responsible for at the time that you're signing up to be responsible for it. Now, I mentioned earlier on that your lender will want to conduct a valuation appointment. So what they will do is they'll send out a surveyor to conduct a survey, and the primary function of that survey is to ensure that the price that you've agreed to pay for the property is reflective of the value of the property in its current state and in the current market that it's in. You've got to remember, your bank is lending you X amount of money, and they want to make sure that under no matter what circumstances, they're able to recoup that. Now, the reason for me bringing in the valuation appointment at this point in time is because if the surveyor doesn't agree with the price that you have agreed to pay for the property, this can cause you a hurdle and can cause you a problem. If they come back and say that the property, actually they value the property £20,000, £30,000, or I've had in some respects £50,000–£60,000 less than what you've agreed to pay for it, they will cap the amount that the bank is prepared to lend you based on their valuation. Now, there are various different things that happen off the back of that decision being made that I'm not going to go into during this cast here, and I'll probably do a specific one for that because it is quite tangled and twisted and turbulent. But I just want to highlight at this point in time, just so that you can get the time frames into your head. Like, whilst all these searches are going on, the minimum amount of time that the searches can take to come in is 14 days. All the while, you've got all these this back and forth tennis game going on between both solicitors. Doesn't come to an end until they come to an absolute point of compromise and they've got a document that both sides agree with. The valuers are going in and they're saying, right, well, yes, we agree, or no, we don't agree. All of these things can extend, or in some respects, unfortunately, bring the sales process to a halt. And that's why it really is key that everybody is on the same page of working for the deal, and that you understand that as you're moving through this process, you understand that nothing is concrete until you get to the end. And just remind to keep yourself in that mental place whereby what can be quite a stressful process doesn't bring you down and ruin the experience for you, because it differs from what your expectation was or is. You know? Quintessentially, usually the process from going from deal agreed to the point of where we've got exchange of contracts and complete is usually about 3 months long, thereabouts, and that's provided everything runs smoothly. And as I've highlighted, particularly in this aspect here, there are a lot of elements in here that need to be agreed, a lot of things that need to be applied for, a lot of things that need to be gone over, and a lot of debating that goes back and forth. So as you're moving forward, my point of mentioning this is, as you're moving forward and through this sales process, don't be disheartened because it hasn't happened in 5 minutes, and also don't think that it's over just because a question has been raised that's difficult to answer. If you've got a good agent on your side and you've got good solicitors involved, this is an extension of the negotiation period, and that's all that will happen. Something will come up, a solution will be sourced, that will be agreed, and then you'll move on. So yeah, just bear that in mind as you're moving through. Anyway, that's me out for this week. Thank you so much for your support as usual, and thank you so much for listening to me go on and on. I really hope that you're finding this useful. Next week we are on to the final bits, the all important exchange and the all important complete. Anyway, that's me out for this week, as I said earlier on. I hope you have a great day, great week, and I'll see you in the forwards.